So I'm Jeena, and like Stephen mentioned, I manage and head up our travel and local partnerships and strategy for Google Play. And I also have a global lens in terms of just figuring out what different partners are doing in these markets and how are they going global, how are they staying local. Today, it's actually interesting. When I started thinking about what mobile-first mindset means, we've all been in this, we've all seen this throughout the last 10 years. Every year seems to be the year of mobile. And then finally, when everything is still mobile, then people are thinking about AI and machines and robotics and things like that, right? And so here I am to talk about the mindset. It's not just having a mobile-first experience, but also how do you perceive your experience? How are users perceiving these experiences? And having that mindset is crucial because otherwise you might be making them in one platform, say the desktop, and copy-pasting it or cloning it, or making it on another platform and then just copy-pasting it again onto an app experience. And so thinking about mobile from ground up is something that I care deeply and passionate about. And hopefully, by the end of this, you will also feel empowered to take a look at your own mobile experiences and for your products and see how they are mobile first. OK. Before I start, I want to talk a little bit about the Android and Play ecosystem. There were a couple of announcements yesterday, so my deck is not updated with that. But I have some numbers from what we announced at I/O. And yesterday, we had playtime in Europe and in North America, where we made a couple of other announcements. Like, for example, what you see here are metrics around 2 billion active devices today globally on Android, and 82 billion installs from the Play Store globally. Something that we announced yesterday is that now we see 8 billion monthly installs every month globally from apps and games. And that's a pretty powerful metric when you think about users and where they are located, and installing some of your brands and some of your apps. And we also announced this in terms of 35% growth that we are seeing in the last 12 months for apps that make more than 1 million monthly installs. And that's also another powerful metric when you are thinking about users and how many are installing. What's interesting is how many have your app on the phone, because not every one of us is traveling all the time. So we may not actually have some of these apps all the time, but there are apps that actually stay on a device even when the users are not specifically traveling, but they might be actually looking for inspiration to travel or looking for local information around places that they visit. And new payment methods where we are looking at experiences where people are more comfortable making certain forms of payment. And this is something that you may know from your own businesses as well. What we've noticed is that in Japan, carrier billing works really well. In Germany, it's PayPal. And in Brazil, gift cards and other forms of prepaid instruments work really well with the users there. And so what Play is doing is looking at every user in every part of the world and how are they engaging with forms of payment, and trying to make sure that Play billing or other forms of payments that they use are also available for you to access through the platform. And of course, reach more users. So it's no longer just the Play Store that your brands are getting discovered. It's on the Daydream Store, another version of the Play Store for VR experiences. It's on the Chromebooks. You have a Play Store on the Chromebooks. We also announced a year back a feature, a functionality, and I'm excited to show you an example from the travel vertical where instant apps is something that developers are looking at in terms of, well, what if I don't want, what if I have this install barrier? How can I still show what my app is all about without, the user having to actually install the app? And Building for Billions is our very close to heart initiative that we are looking at when we look at emerging markets. And we also have, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but we also announced Android Go, which is our set of devices, entry-level devices in specific emerging markets, which will enable users to engage with Android and Play apps more seamlessly. And don't have to be apps that are only available on certain devices, but it can actually be from entry-level devices as well. So shifting gears now to travel and mobile. When you think about travel and the word mobile, I can't think of anything that is not as closely related. You actually physically are mobile when you are traveling. And apart from that, there's also the mobile experiences on the go where people have their phones in their hand, in their pockets, and trying to figure out where I want to go next, what am I doing, right? I wanted to throw 3 stats just in terms of just showing you where users are. Now, there are plenty of stats out there. I just chose to pick up these 3 just to drive a point on what it means to have a travel app and especially how users engage with it. So some of the research that we did recently told us that 31% of consumers who have used mobile for travel have used so daily for the last 30 days, right? I mean, I'm not talking about mobile apps or mobile sites as specific, just mobile travel and local experiences on mobile. And these are people who are not, they're easy to move to another mobile site or app experience if the app experience or site experience is really clunky, if there were performance issues. So if they don't get what they're looking for, they'll also be very quick to find another alternative. 69% of travelers are very loyal to a travel company that personalizes their experiences. And this is not just personalizing in one place. It's online and offline. What are some of the things that you do for your users to show them how you've understood their user behavior? And I think Stephen must have referenced this today in terms of some of the work that he's been doing and how can you drive further personalization or understanding the user behavior, right? And this number is actually 78% for business travelers. This is 69 for leisure travelers, and there's 78% of business travelers prefer personalized experiences. And the number 1 reason why people uninstall an app is when it takes up too much space. When your apps are heavy, if they crash, if there are performance issues, if the reviews before I even install the app, if it actually talks about, oh, this app, no matter what it is, it could be a direct brand, it could be an OTA, but this app keeps on crashing, that is a user cost. The user's probably not going to download the app if they know it's going to be harmful for their phone. So and this is something that you may have, if you've ever watched me speak before or have read anything that I've written, I constantly talk about the user journey. It is something that I think it can never go old because a user is not necessarily just jumping into one of those experiences that you have, but they usually go through a cycle of dreaming, planning, booking, experiencing, and sharing. And I won't go into details of each and every stage, but this time I wanted to actually show you some examples of brands and companies and what kind of unique experiences they are offering in these stages. And you may know these companies already. I'm sorry if I haven't called out any of your companies or brands, but these are just a glimpse of what I've seen, and I'm sure there are way better experiences as well. So let me know if I'm missing someone very crucial that you want me to highlight. And this is the other part, when you think about where is the travel brand sitting. The travel brands are thinking about, at least from my conversations with a lot of the companies, they're looking at every stage. They don't want to just be in the planning and the booking stage. I want to attract the customer before. I want to be that place where they've discovered the content. I also want to be the place where they talk about how awesome it was. It's not just, oh, I'm going to give them the best deal, and they're going to book, and they're going to come back again. So when you think about I want to get away moments, those are the dreaming phase. And one thing that I want to highlight here is actually an app that just is in early access and open beta on Android, but available on iOS, called Hitlist. And it's a great app for discovering as well as planning and booking. Now, the experience that you see there is actually an instant app experience. It's not even, the app is not installed on my phone. It's just an experience of, hey, check out this, great place that I found out on chat. I click on the link, and then the app experience loads. It's not a mobile web page, it's an app that just and you can go through the entire flow of even booking and checking out in the same flow without even installing your app. And some of the recommendations that I have for these experiences are your users could be all around the world, so localize those store listing pages. When people come and discover your app on the store, make sure that you have your best foot forward with great localized content on that page for that user. and understand the cultural nuances. Maybe a user in Japan does not necessarily need to see screenshots of users in UK or France or US looking through the app, right? So how do you make it like very culturally significant, but also appeal to people from that region? And Instant Apps, as the example here, is one way in which, interestingly, you can try now on the Play Store. So if you have an Instant App experience, you could, instead of installing, it could also be try now. And planning is where, when you think about where I want to make where I want to go and what I want to do, a lot of people are worried that they may not even get the best price. So they'll look at different, I'm going to go to the mobile web, I'm going to go to desktop, I'm going to go to different brands and try and figure out. The example that I'm highlighting here is that of Hopper. What I find interesting is that it's not just for the place that you've looked, so it's not just because you're looking for Boston to Miami, but they're also recommending, hey, have you tried Fort Lauderdale? It's actually cheaper for the dates that you're looking for. So providing alternatives. So it's not just for the places that they were looking at, but also finding other places that they can book accordingly. Booking is where people talk about the favorite things that they see when they have booking experiences is what is simple and easy to use. And the example here is that of Hotel Tonight, where I deliberately erased my personal email ID. But you can see how when I'm on the Book Now page, when I click on that, that's when it asks me, which account do you want to sign in with? And as soon as I sign in or sign up, I can enter my payment details and seamlessly move through that experience. And this is an example of someone like Hotel Tonight using Smart Lock for passwords. They've actually seen a huge conversion rate to booking ever since they installed this functionality. And when you think about experiencing, when we think about users looking at that moment, they're looking for everything at their fingertips right before their travel and right on the day off, and sometimes even after. And as you can see here, the Hilton app, right before you check in to the hotel, they actually offer these things on their app. This is not the experience you get when you first look to book. The experience completely changes when you open the app a day before, because you can actually check in, you can figure out the digital key, you can also look at if you want to take an Uber to the hotel from the airport. All of that stuff is in one place before you even get there. And once you get there, the options slightly change. And I truly think that sharing leads to more inspiration. And I usually try to have pictures of my pictures that I've taken to show off sometimes. But this is an example of a hotel that we stayed at in Prague recently. And it was actually interesting because I don't have that many likes. I would love to have more likes, obviously. But it's also interesting that a lot of people who commented had things to talk about in terms of what place it was. And I got messages after asking me how I had made that booking so that they could also look at staying at that place. Because it was really beautiful. It had a private garden outside. So even when you're thinking about travelers, what options can you provide them? I know this is an Instagram example, but your brand could actually be very relevant for that user. How was your stay? Did you want to send a digital postcard to your family? Take a picture of where you are and send it off. Where are you staying relevant so that their word of mouth can actually inspire more people to come to you? I think I am running out of time, but I want to definitely touch upon this one thing that I think is very interesting and intriguing when you think about mobile mindset as a culture. You may have heard of this phrase before, culture eats strategy before breakfast. If you are building for mobile, you have to think about ground-up experiences. Some of the things that we've tried in my team are trying to figure out, hey, let's work on our mobile phones for a week and see what are the ways in which we're engaging with our mobile devices. And if all our products and services actually work really well when you only rely on mobile. And trying to fill out, here are the bugs I saw, here are feature improvements that I have, and trying to think about it from ground up. And I've also seen companies do that. A month of just Android, a month of just iOS device as your primary device. Rely on your devices so that you can see how users are experiencing them. Make it your primary device so that you can see, well, it's not just my travel brand A that should work on Android. It should be, how is WhatsApp working on Android? How is Facebook working? How is Google Maps working? Because your user is engaged through all of those experiences and your brand. So they're not just looking at your app and forgetting about everything else. They're looking at the whole gamut of apps that they have, and that experience has to be seamless across material design, across different features and functionalities that the system provides. I think the deck is going to be shared later, so you can definitely take a look at it. I just have a couple more examples for where I've seen companies embody mobile-first mindsets. So you can take a look at it. Some of the examples that I'll glance, just run through are Airbnb with the design that they have for inspiring travel, personalizing, whether you are local or a traveler, the results change on trip.com. And then optimizing and personalizing through context and location with different APIs and SDKs that we have. And of course, re-engaging is very crucial. As you re-engage, being very careful about how relevant, how actionable, how timely, and how personalized it is. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I like the title, A Mobile-First Mindset, because many people, I think, just use mobile like they would use a website. And they don't understand the difference in the mindset. Now, let me be self-serving and tie some things together. Personalization. Many people think of marketing campaigns, which I showed is different than a one-to-one interaction. We've got to put both of these together. That's two different mindsets combined. How do you change the mindset?
How do I change the mindset? Of building mobile experiences?
Of a company that needs to suddenly change the way it's been doing business, both through the channel, your mobile, and through the method, which could be the personalization.
Yeah, I can say what I'm seeing most people do are investing in teams that are focused on product, on engineering, but not just product, but product by themes. It's no longer just here are my iOS engineers and my Android engineers and my iOS PMs and my Android PMs, but also the horizontal layer of, well, here's my product team that's focused on growth. Here's my product team focused on mobile growth. And so there are a lot of other themes where people are focusing on so that they can work together. Something that we are trying is, and we're trying very hard, like if you've interacted with anyone at Google, you'll know how many folks we are, right? Like everybody's talking about travel. There are 100 people who work on travel other than me at Google, right? And what we are trying our best to do is syncing internally and like trying to be as cohesive and having that narrative clear for what is that mobile strategy. And what works really well is when we present to partners, when we have the product team, the marketing team, the engineering team, all in the same room, sometimes they're meeting each other for the first time. They may not have actually crossed paths, and they don't realize that, hey, I'm spending money on driving these app install campaigns, but my app is a 3.5 star. Like, what can we do to do that, make that better? So better ROI on the efforts that you're driving. So not just having these siloed teams, but how do these teams work together is very important, and how do they work on different aspects, like mobile, yes, desktop, different, but these people are going to like actually be the reason why you continue to have that mindset and culture. And we're trying our best on our side to work much more cohesively so that you can see the parallels between the team, but it all makes sense. Like, I can go on and on talking about having a great Play Store listing page, but with the new app install campaigns that we've launched with Universal App Campaigns, that campaign draws from that store listing page. So the better your page is, the better your marketing campaigns will be because of the icons and the screenshot that it's drawing. Making sense of that is hard. So when you get to, like we're trying our best to like make sense of this narrative while the teams there are working closely together with the mindset, if that helps.
Yeah, no, so part of that would be to break down the barriers of the silos. And once you get people talking together, they'll change the way they approach.
Yeah.
So that they're not just going back to the old way. I can't see, do we have any hands up out there? We've got some questions on the board. I don't see any hands up. Okay, you guys are being really quiet. What do you think about the Latin America market?
I don't have numbers, but I know it's growing. I don't have exactly what numbers. I can take a look at what we've shared at some of our partner days publicly, and I can share that. So if you ask that question, just find me. And I'll be able to get you that number. But I do know it's growing, and our commitment is making sure that the forms of payment that users are most convenient for the users, they are made available through the platform. Whether it's payment processors that you work with Android Pay or Pay with Google, or it's the Play billing that you might be working with, we're trying to make sure that our payment processes and programs are in place for what the users in those markets need. And I know we're investing in that, so that's why I don't have numbers to tell you how much it's growing, but yes, there's definitely momentum and traction.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I have a bunch of other questions, but if you can find me, please let me know and I can address them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.